Welcome back to Maximum Production, a Holstein Friesian New Zealand podcast about everything to do with cows. I'm Amelia, and today I am talking to Jordan Siemers of Siemers Holsteins. The name Siemers may be familiar to a few of our listeners, as you may have used these bulls such as Siemers Renegade Perfect ET or SSI Siemers OD Carrot ET. Jordan is also a sire analyst with Select Sires, as well as managing the home farm. Jordan is going to talk to us today about farming in the USA, as well as the world of bull breeding. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you for having me and looking forward to this conversation today.
We start with the same question every time. So what's your background and how did you get to where you are today?
That's a fun question to start things off with. And honestly, I grew up on our family dairy. I actually grew up right on the house here that's on the commercial dairy and been able to see every step of the way from all of our different expansions, right? From 700 to 1200 and today we're over 7,000 cows milking on two different sites. So I've been able to watch that whole progression throughout my childhood. We delved into Holstein breeding when I was about 12, 13 years old, when we had been doing a bunch of crossbreeding with Swedish Red, Montbéliard, Holstein, and actually it was Kevin Jorgensen with Select Sires, who was a good friend of my father's, that he pulled the dairy count back up one day from us and said, "Hey, you're losing a couple thousand pounds of energy corrected milk on your herd, on your Holsteins compared to your crosses. You should look into going back to Holstein." And it was kind of then that genomics was coming online, IVF was starting to come online, and my dad thought it would be a good project for me to get my hands wet, kind of have that owner's mentality of integrating into the dairy. We had mattresses with sawdust, and he concentrated on getting sand bedding, deep bedded sand bedding in, and some manure transfer equipment. The genetic game kind of became my pet project through middle school, high school, and then college. I went to school in New York. Our dairy's in Wisconsin. And from the age of 18 to 24, I didn't go home. I was still in contact every day. I had my father, my uncle, or Schaefer, a herdsman. They'd go look at cattle for me. We'd talk about the cattle, but I didn't go home very much. I went to different dairies across the US, had different opportunities, and came home a couple weeks before COVID hit and haven't really looked back. Now combining a lot of the Select Sires, Siemers Holsteins partnership, that lack for a better term, is my baby. It's what I love to do every day. Get up and it's pretty exciting.
Do you think that having the opportunity to actually go and work on different farms and things like that made you better when you came back home, and having that experience working with different farmers and different systems made you more prepared to try new things when you're actually back on that home farm?
Yes. Being able to see what's worked in different parts of the country. I was in New York, then I was in Illinois, Minnesota, California, Ohio. There's a lot of different places that I've been, traveled, seen, lived. It allows me when customers come to me and go, "This is how it works here." I'm able to listen and kind of interpret more or less what they're saying instead of trying to offer like, "Oh no, this is only how it's done in Wisconsin." It's like, no, I understand now. Things are not the same.
I would say America is quite similar to New Zealand in that depending on where you are in the country, your environmental and like weather situations are very different. For example, for Northland, it's very hot and very dry. Ryegrass doesn't grow up there, whereas Waikato's pretty much designed for farming. That's what we do best, and the same with Taranaki. And then Southland, you get snow and rain and wind and everything kind of hits you all at once. So you do need to be able to adapt to that different area. And I'd say you have the same with America, like Florida gets very hot, and then other parts of the country get very cold in winter. And I know that most of your systems over there are barn systems, but I guess you still need to be able to adapt to what's going to work depending on where you are.
Yes, in the United States, I guess it is very similar to what you're experiencing, right? The West and the Southwest are extremely dry. The Upper Midwest, it gets quite cold, get quite wet. We are in barns, but I've also been able to see people lay corral down, you know, be very successful with that. And then there's certain pockets of the country that do very well in grazing environments and have tremendous success with that. So it's certainly dairy farming is certainly not one size fits all.
It's great that everyone's starting to get more of an understanding around that now, because for so long I think there was this stigmatism in New Zealand that everyone needs to be a what we call a system one, which is grazing pasture based system, and everyone needs to do that and the whole country can do it like that, whereas now it is more along what you guys are seeing overseas, and that there's more people that are putting in barn systems, or they're introducing irrigation if they've got the luxury of being able to have that water available and things like that, or they're changing the way that they're actually carving, so they're not all spring carving anymore. So it's great to see that more farmers, especially here in New Zealand, are understanding the differences. So you talked a little bit about how many cows you're milking there. So what's your kind of calving spread, your feed system? 7,000 cows. I'm guessing you guys have got a few staff that you've got running around the place.
Yeah, milking over 7,000 cows. We have 110 cow rotary that we're milking on, and one double 36 parallel we milk on. As far as a calving spread, we calve every day. It's a 365-day operation. There's not seasonal calving is not very common up here. I guess how things are set up right now, we have about 96 staff. Very dedicated staff, very good team. Yeah, can't do it without them. There's no denying that.
It just seems crazy to me. My brother's farming just outside of Te Awamutu, about 15 minutes from where I live, and he milks 320 cows, and he has one permanent staff and one casual staff. So it's a lot different over there compared to us, and kind of the number of people you possibly need. But you do a lot more with the barn system. You're doing a lot more of like cut and carry. So you possibly have people that are dedicated to tractor driving, and then people dedicated to milking. Is that kind of how it's split out, or is it everyone kind of just does a bit of everything?
No, we have very dedicated routines for the different members on our parlor teams. Like we have 3 shifts. We shut down and wash twice a day. Otherwise, we're always milking. We have calving barns that are off site. That we have staff around the clock. Embryo work that we do, we want to make sure that we are maximizing total live calves born and making sure that things go very smoothly. So that's very important. We do also do have a cropping and farming department that does a lot of our maintenance in the off season, going through equipment. We do run one line of equipment here when we do go chopping. We have a chopper. We run semis with forage boxes, and we have a bunch of pack tractors. We do all of our own packing. We have a dairy staff team. We have a breeding team. So yeah, it's very team specific, and yeah, that's it's fun.
Sure that, staff get-togethers at your farm are a lot bigger than what they are over here.
It's something.
So you said that you're carving every day, so it's a 365 calving season. How long are your cows generally milking for? Are they still only milking for the equivalent of like 300 days, or do you do more of an 18 months season on them?
We do a very traditional, like, so if a cow calves in, we have about a 72-day voluntary wait period before we breed. From there, once they're confirmed pregnant, we'll run a 60-day dry period, 58 60-day dry period for them. Just kind of proceed as normal, over here.
Because for a while over in America, that 18-month season was a big deal and a lot of people were doing it. Do you think people have gone back to the other way, or gone back to a traditional sense of that calving season to get more growth through their genetics? Or were they finding that from an overall perspective, there wasn't necessarily as much gain doing it over a longer season, and doing it over a traditional season seemed to be more beneficial?
I know of a couple pockets that do some of that 18-month long days in milk. But what you'll find by more progressive managers is in order to be profitable here and to really get the milk out of these cows, we need to decrease our days in milk, decrease our days open. And with where beef on dairy calves here are in the States right now at the profitable levels that they are, being able to have as many live calves as possible a year is a very profitable thing right now. So it's kind of a catch 22 of, yes, the better you are right now with your repro, more than likely your ability to be profitable is going to be very high.
So, we talked a little bit about the difference between farming in the USA and farming in New Zealand. I guess it is more similar now than I think it was possibly, 20 years ago, because we've introduced the barn systems over here and things like that. If we break it down a little bit more, Here in New Zealand, we're paid on milk solids, and the factories determine your payments depending on whether or not they're paying more out on fat or protein. How are you paid over in America for your milk?
Yeah, there's different segments of the US, but I will say the majority of the US, again, very similar to you guys, we get paid on total pounds of solids out the door. There's a fat price, total amount of pounds of fat you make, and then total amount of pounds of protein you make times those dollar values, and those kind of get announced every month. So it's a very month to month deal over here. And traditionally, right? And it's moving. A lot of people talk in pounds of milk, a day, and um, really we should be talking about ECMs. But even then, we should just be talking about pounds of solids a day. There still are a couple contracts that I know of in the states that will pay you a whitewater contract of 3.5 butterfat. Those are not very common, and there's a couple that pay you on fat, not on protein. What I would consider milk shed specific, but for the most part, again, it's total pounds of solids that leave the driveway every day.
Do you have to sign up with a milk company at the start of the season and that's who you stick with? Or do you have the ability to swap companies depending on how it's being paid? I know that in the UK, in some places, company A is all of a sudden going to start paying out on X, Y, or Z for hire. You can swap from this one to that one for that week and then move back. And it could be the difference of 2, 3 cents. Whereas, like here in New Zealand, especially with Fonterra, you have shares within the company and that's how you do it. We have other companies that are quite local. So, for example, Tatua only has a certain number of farms, and those farms must be located within a certain radius of the factory out towards Morrinsville. So is that a similar way of doing it to America, or are you more along the lines of what they can do in the UK?
It's a very good question. There's some areas of the country that are tied to milk plants. So you don't have any other options. Or if you do, your trucking will be, instead of a 4 hour truck, it'll be a 10-hour truck. So it's very regional. There are different parts of the country. You can't move week to week, but you can move after a year. There is some of that. It's a little bit longer term, especially if you go into a co-op where you have to really drill down your anniversary date, and you can give them notice and do things like that. So it's a lot more complex over here to move companies and getting into milk. It's not as easy as if you are tied to one, you're usually tied to them for years.
So a lot similar to what we have here in New Zealand, because I know some companies, once you're in there, it's almost easier just to stay where you are rather than to try and move. It can be a little bit complicated in some places. So I guess your payouts wouldn't be that much difference between the companies, or is there quite a variation depending on, I guess, where you are in the country or how big those companies are that you're working with?
Yeah, it depends where markets move. There are times in the last couple of years where if you had an opportunity to ship to a butter plant or a cheese plant, your spread could be about $5 in favor of butter. Right now, your pay price would be about $4 to $5 difference in favor of cheese. Cheddar cheese blocks. There are some spread, and even within the cheese market, we've noticed that farmer talk, like we're kind of doing now, is even within our region, there are different pay prices between the co ops, or there's also some private manufacturing here in the States. One of our facilities goes to a co op, and the other facility goes to a private, and there are different perks and different payouts.
Farming's not easy anyway, so we're just going to add the added bonus of you dealing with co-ops that want to rip you off, and then we'll see if it's easy or not. Farming in America is really starting to kind of make its own out there. So where do you see farming in the USA going within the next 5 to 10 years, let's say?
This goes back to this regionality where milk processing is coming online. So, right now, there are different parts of the country where there's new, exciting processing coming online. There's states that are very pro agriculture, and when you get them together, things are very exciting. There are parts of the country that have very aging infrastructure, whether that be dairies, whether that be dairy manufacturing, and there's a mass exodus of cattle out of those systems right now. So, what you're going to see is big relocations of cattle in the United States. That's going to be very interesting. Where new barns are going to be at, where the new parlors are going to be at. It's very exciting times. I envision, again, in the next 5 to 10 years, the rate of consolidation is not slowing down. It's actually speeding up. And I thought that we had just gotten out of a 5 year deal where consolidation has been at a rapid rate. And I think looking forward, like I said, I thought it was going to slow down, but I envision that it's going to get faster. I think technology is going to be a very, very, very big deal. Those that adapt to it are going to be able to decrease their cost of production, and aligning yourself again with the right people on your team, the right genetics for what your goals are. There's so much of this where management's going to have to be stepped up to keep an edge on cost production.
I think New Zealand's kind of going the same way. Our biggest thing in New Zealand is compliance. So all the regions throughout New Zealand are having to reassess these regional council compliances for their areas, and I think that's greatly affecting them. And it's that same kind of thing. I think these parts of New Zealand where the farm numbers and things like that might reduce and other parts might increase. So I think we're possibly moving along the same way that you are. But I think the technology thing's the interesting one, because technology is making such a difference within the farming world these days, and it's making it progress a lot faster. We have a lot of collar systems, and I know America does too, that have taken off. And it's hard to find a farm now that doesn't use some form of collar or bolus or ear tag that's helping them get health data or mating data. And then you take into account your embryo work that you guys do, and that's starting to increase here, even within our commercial farmers, which is great to see. People are seeing the benefits of that genetic gain from those top cows in their herd. So I think New Zealand and America are kind of working at different rates. America, everything kind of goes a little bit faster than what it does over here, but we are still moving forward, I think, in the same process as what you are over there.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me, right? And I think more or less the way that we think about the dairy business is converging as well.
I mentioned technology. What is the technology or systems that have made the biggest impact on your herd's performance, do you think? Hard question, sorry.
No, it's fine. We try to adapt to many and all technology very quickly. I'd say the one that's been super helpful for us is running a feed software on the dairy, helping really keep our rations dialed in, really helping with shrink. Big one for us in our TMR forage system. The other one, activity monitoring is a huge deal. It's like hiring, a 24-hour herdsman around the clock that is really able to drill in cows that are starting to go downhill before you see visual signs, cattle that are coming into heat, when to put in sex semen or semen. It's incredible. And now that there's sort gates that can help with that, and in y'all's system that's very predicated on labor efficiency.
I think people don't realize just how amazing all this stuff is to make farming so much more enjoyable. Having the ability to kind of look at the data and have access to this data, like as you said, the sex semen thing, just being able to get better results out of your sex semen by knowing what time period to do the insemination versus going off a visual heat analysis where you're like, well, she's on heat, I'll draft her out and I only mate in the morning, so this is when I'm going to do it. And then, you're getting all these returns, and then you get some sort of recording system that's telling you, oh, so this is her peak, this is when you should be putting in your sex, this is what's going to make the difference, and this is going to increase your hold rates and things like that. And I suppose even for you guys, like if you've got the ability that can help you identify when cows are starting to calve and things like that, then you can have the luxury of being able to draft out those cows that are within that 12-hour period and put them under cameras if that's what you use. So if anything goes wrong, it's easier to spot and things like that. As you said, it's like two full-time herd persons that are just floating around and doing their job without you having to pay as much for them. We still have to pay for it, but
Yeah, but it's a lot less. I tell you what, it's being able to find that caliber. Trying to find those people is not so easy. Yeah, it's quite a deal, and we've even put them on our calves now, the tags, and we're able to monitor the amount of rumination. We're able to get on top of sick calves faster, calves with a little bit of fever, cold calves. It's like, whoa. This is cool.
I would have never thought about putting it on calves. That's actually really smart because calves get sicker a lot faster than what your cows do. And that's your future that you want to save. So if you've got the ability to pick it up faster and treat it, that's actually genius.
Had the same reaction as you did, and we put them in the summer after I heard about some other people doing it. And wow, I mean, it's just like, yeah, this seems like a novel idea. And again, this is just talking to other farmers and seeing what works and listening to new ideas. And you wouldn't have thought about it until
From a farmer's point of view, the best way to kind of learn and advance is to listen to other farmers. Your neighbor next door might be doing something completely different to you, but it works and they'll tell you how it works. And then you can look at oh, well, maybe if I did something similar, that could work for me. It's not losing the kind of old school farmers' way of doing things. It's just advancing on it and making things more user friendly for yourselves, more efficient for yourselves, and actually just better for like cow monitoring, cow health, pasture growth, even different aspects to try and increase those kind of things. That's what your neighbors are for, right? You want to work with them, you don't want to work against them.
that's right.
So you have a lot of cows to mate every year, over 7,000 cows. So do you want to just kind of walk us through the process of selecting the sires for your breeding program and what you're specifically looking for?
We're in a very nice position here where we do some traditional matings of just regular breedings, and we have this IVF program, which my father oversees the traditional joining, the normal breeding, and I oversee the IVF program. And every proof round, so it's one of the triennial proofs, and we usually Friday evening of proof week, we get together and we usually pick a bourbon that we like. I'm just being honest. I tell everyone this story because it's true. We pick a bourbon we like. We sit down and we kind of go over the successes of our program. We go over some holes that we see in the program, and we're very strategic in how we breed. And that I know that's kind of your question. So I will call it directional breeding. We try to put bulls in the tank that we're excited about, that are all very balanced, that go after the direction we want to go. I guess for us, like I mentioned before, that in mid 2000s we put in a sand system. Today, about 2 years ago, we put in a biodigester plant in the middle of the two dairies, and we are now on manure solids and or fiber bedding, and so it's changed a little bit the way we think and look at cattle. So we're very big on mastitis resistance, whether it be CDCB mastitis, the wettest mastitis, cell score. For us, we do not want cattle ending up in the hospital barn. We're very big on watching Zoetis lameness. And then from there, we want to use good cow families. We want to push combined fat and protein. We've always been big protein people. We look at fat to protein ratio. It's not a metric that you can find on paper. It's just something we kind of are always looking at. Eastern Wisconsin is very cheese driven. So to help cheese yield,
Wisconsin's definitely known for its cheese.
it's very cheese driven here. So we need to make sure that we're putting enough protein out with our butterfat. So those are some important things. We also do not sacrifice on cow fertility. We look at both DPR and cow conception rate. And then we kind of look at linear and pedigree. So we're trying to find the unicorn, and it's just not one, right? It's multiple. And that for us is important. With our breeding programs, we also look at poll, we look at red, we look at what I would consider balanced conformation. So that's a mix of some of these traits with a little bit more type, So we're trying to find different, looking at our maternal stock. We try to match it up with bulls that'll take us to where we want to go for the next several years, and build a herd from underneath it. So try to have cattle at the end of the day that have no weak links.
How many bulls would you select for your herd within a year?
There's a system that I use to take embryos and plug them back into the computer, and I've been running that program now for 2 years. And there's probably 270 bulls on there. So yeah, some of those are Angus bulls, and we have an Angus Moet program that we started as well, along with our Holstein program. There are some show bulls in there, so yeah, it's quite a few there. And my father and I also try to pick some slightly different bulls. There's some bulls that we pick that are the same, and then we pick some bulls that are different from the standpoint of risk management. We
Yep.
look at pedigree
Yep.
stacks. We try to make sure part of that meeting is, hey, did you find some bulls that you are in love with? If yes, okay, great. We do work together in that capacity of not delving ourselves in too many holes.
So out of this 200 odd bulls, which I can tell you right now, everyone in New Zealand is going to be like, what the hell? People think that 12 bulls is too many. So, most of the people here, like, okay, you might be milking only 500 odd cows, but they tend to pick 4 bulls and that's their blanket. But I think you're trying to do it that you match them better, right? Like you're picking bulls that are going to match for what you're looking for according to the animals that you're looking at. So as you said, you've got some show bulls in there, and then you've got some beef bulls in there for your beef program, and then you'll have your bulls for your IVF program and things like that. So that's why you've got so many, and it makes sense. We've got our show community people over here potentially are looking at more in the 12 to 14 bulls, depending on their breeding program. But a lot of our commercial guys, you're only looking at, they'll pick a team of 4 and hope that those 4 kind of match what they're trying to improve.
I don't think that's wrong. Honestly,
No.
we pick usually on like the commercial herd. There's usually what I would, it's 5 to 6 per proof round. There are 3 proof rounds in a year. So it can be 15 to 18 bulls that are very hot and heavy. But sometimes you have to use like a full brother or a blood brother because of availability. So it sounds crazy, but sometimes that's like take 18 times, say there's a problem with availability, and that just happens, right? Multiply it by 3, and you can get 60 in a hurry just on natural breedings, just for using a full brother. It's easy to magnify that number very quickly.
It's also very different. You're milking 7,000 odd cows, whereas, the average herd size in New Zealand is only 340 to 400 cows. So we don't necessarily need as large a number of bulls as what you guys would to be able to cover all the different genetics that you've already got in your herd. Whereas in these smaller herds in New Zealand, you don't have as wide of a gene pool that you're necessarily looking at. So I think you compare size-wise yours to ours, then I think you would, in that commercial sense, hitting it more to what they are doing over here.
Sure.
So are there any bulls that you're using that are really highlighted to you or stand out for the coming year that you're like, I'm really excited to see what we can get out of these bulls?
Our rule around here is if you're not excited about a bull, you should not buy them or put them in your tank. That is rule number one. So, yes, every bull in the tank right now, I am excited about. You mentioned a funny name when you said, are there any bulls you want to highlight? Well, actually, there's a cow called Deluxe Highlighted that was the judge's choice for Global Cow of the Year last month at Holstein International. She's a deluxe from Eastern New York that Select and CMEX purchased together in a joint partnership. She lives here at Siemers Holsteins, and she is just a cow that second calf, 91 points, 94 in the udder, was doing just an insane amount of combined fat and protein. At her peak, she was doing 14.2 combined pounds of fat and protein a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's like a real cow. Love her. She's fairly outcrossed to a lot of the bloodlines right now in the breed, being Deluxe, Bigelow Jared. We are using several of her sons, a couple Sheepster sons, an Easton son. Yeah, Deluxe highlighted for what we are trying to accomplish is a cow that we think can do everything. She has 2 fabulous pulled sons coming in 2026. We think this cow can hit every genre of what we envision Holstein genres to be: pulled, red carrier, type, performance, pedigree. She can hit it on all levels.
Like how you focus on the cow rather than focusing on the bull, because the bull's great, but it all starts from that cow family,
It
right?
does.
Like you need a top cow to be able to kind of get you that top bull to do what you want it to do. So it's nice that you refer it back to the cow, because my next question for you was around like a cow family that you believe defines your breeding legacy. So I guess she's going to be the future.
She is, right? I try to look in the past to learn from our mistakes or learn from what we've done. I look at current, what's really working, and then I look for the future of how can we refine what we have. Deluxe Highlighted is the future. There's no question about it. Our current two hot families here right now at Siemers that define our breeding program are Lambda Paris the dam of Parfect, the dam of Pazel. She has close to 15 sons in AI. She's been an absolute dream cow, a cow that's really taken us from a mid-level program to where I, think we're at today. And then the other cow that's really, again, a cow that's both a current and a future cow, what I would call a tweener, is Luster 33317 out of our H family, our Halo, our Hinkers. And right now she has several sons in AI. Holy P for one, Hulu, the red carrier's son. So right now she has a lot of excitement in the unproven bull sphere, but then she has a whole female line underneath her that many viewers probably don't know about, that are TPI, performance driven, health driven, with some of that type. So we've taken that family a couple different directions, and I think the best from the Luster 33317 is yet to come. Yes, we're very excited to what is currently in the pipeline, but we're never content on settling. Today it's about where are we going to be at 5 to 10 years from now.
My favorite thing about interviewing farmers for this podcast is when you start asking them about their cows, because their whole demeanor changes. You can tell just in your voice how excited you get when you're talking about these cows that are doing so well for you, and that you're excited to see where they can go in the future. Farmers are happy to talk about what they're doing on farm and their system and everything like that. But as soon as you start talking about, like, or ask them the question about, tell me about your cows, the whole thing just changes and they get really excited, which I love to see people get excited about talking about their cows, because you said that's your future, that's your business and everything like that. And it's so cool to see the success that you guys are having and that you're so excited about what else you can bring to the industry with these animals that you have within your herd. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a passion. Lack for a better term, it's my baby. A lot of time, sweat, tears. It truly is what gets me excited to go out the door and try to have solutions for people around the world. I try to talk to a lot of breeders, a lot of farmers, see what their needs are, right? Because maybe it's something that we haven't thought about, or different combinations. We don't know until we hear from people what kind of their needs are. And quite honestly, for a lot of people, they just want correct cattle that don't give them problems, don't end up in the hospital, and are profitable for them. That is what we'd consider our bread and butter. Yeah, really love the Holstein breed and the Holstein cow.
Beautiful animals. And as you kind of said before, their production and things like that is just a standout, which is really, I think, a highlight to how beneficial the breed can be from all aspects of farming as well. So you mentioned the Paris cow, that links back to the Parfait bull that I mentioned at the start. So I did a little bit of research before I got on here, because I know a little bit, but I thought I'd get some more stats for our listeners about where these bulls are actually standing within New Zealand. The Carrot bull, which I mentioned at the start, he is the highest selling Holstein Friesian bull from Worldwide Sires for the last 2 years in a row, which is great to see. Perfect is currently the number 4 highest BW Holstein Friesian bull in New Zealand at 494 BW, and he is number 2. He's the number 2 protein bull and number 4 fat bull in New Zealand for Holsteins. And then Siemers Pattern 33849 is the current top udder overall bull, sitting at 1.93. So the Siemers bulls clearly translate very well to the New Zealand figures and are making quite an impact on that RAS list. As you said, your cows are producing amazingly for you guys, and it's clearly translating here in New Zealand that they're doing really well over here. So that's really cool to see, because we do find, until possibly the last couple of years, overseas bulls have really struggled to translate into the New Zealand system. And so with the push through Worldwide Sires, Craig's got a lot of knowledge from all aspects of farming. There's been a really big push on creating a team of bulls that are available for New Zealand that fit more of a commercial grazing sense. And I think that the Siemers bulls seem to fit that. Like the Perfect daughters that I've seen are lovely animals. My brother's got a few perfects on the ground this year. The farmers that are milking them are all saying the same thing. They're great cows, they're doing their job, no issues and everything like that. So it's a real positive. Are there any other bulls that have kind of come out of the Siemers program that are a standout to you?
So, yeah, there are. But I'm very glad to hear that our bulls are working in the New Zealand system. Listening about the foreign bulls coming to New Zealand and how they looked, how they worked, and quite honestly, when you look at breeding through the last several decades in America, that actually makes sense. New Zealand, I think, has been very steadfast, knowing the kind of cow that they need for their operations. In America, some of the breeding programs and some of the semen that's maybe come over, it probably doesn't work until now when, there are people like Craig, there are people that are trying to make Kiwi friendly cows, is how he coins the phrase. And so we just sit and listen and go, yeah, maybe those cows would be profitable in our environment. So we try it and they are. And so our motto at Siemers is genetics for cow people, trying to make cattle that can work and thrive in any and all environments. That's kind of important to us. That people, there is customer satisfaction. When people like Craig talk, we tend to listen. Even at Select Sires, their model is a sire for every desire. You need pounds of components, right? You need fertility. You need moderate to low stature. You need moderate to long teats. It's like, oh, this really resonates. It's amazing how once we've built this, it's really worked now in so many other environments. It's kind of a testament to Craig, and there's several others on the team that have done a really nice job of discussing this every month, every other week for different AI companies. So it's a lot. And we have several families that I really like. I just want to find something that'll I think will work in your environment that I'm like really excited about.
Even if it doesn't work in our environment, if there's a bull that you like that you think is working really well over there, because we've still got systems here like our show people and things like that like slightly bigger cow. So I guess it's got to be a bull that, as you said, you're excited about all of them.
And I'm not. I'm just going to be honest. That was a joke. Okay, so a couple bulls that I'm really excited about. One being Siemers Rimbot Cobot. Um, at Worldwide, he's a Rimbot out of a very moderate to almost small Monteverde over here from the North Florida breeding cow family. They're over in Florida. So acquired the dam from Pine Tree out of Ohio, but the whole maternal line is North Florida breeding. This is what we would consider a very futuristic bull for us. It's currently on the Select Sires Next Gen program. Like I mentioned before, we're really trying to push disease resistance. We're really trying to make cattle for some commercial environments. So he's under 2.7 somatic cell score. He's over 3.5, CDC mastitis. He's 27% fat here in the States. He's nearly 10% for protein. He excels in all the Zoetis traits: mastitis, lameness, metritis, RP, and even on calf wellness. Moderate to low stature, a very moderate teat length. He's a bull that I think is going to work really well in a lot of herds. Some other bulls that were on the show side, we're very excited about. Hulu Baldwin is the bull's name. He's actually a Hulu brother to Parfect. He's red carrier.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he's a bull that we're very excited about. I think he can put a little bit of chest width in the red breed. Do some of the things that Parfect did in the black and whites. See if they can't translate in the red and whites. Foot and leg composite. And we're very, I guess, geeked up on a bull like Parian P, Hanks P, a couple of those lines for us right now of bulls that can combine some type, some production. That's a little bit of our bread and butter.
Yep. So lots of good bulls out there for different people depending on what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about show. I know that you guys do a bit of showing. I know you're a judge yourself. And I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on how you balance the herd when it comes to show ring success versus commercial viability. I guess it's a bit easier for you guys over there. You can separate out that commercial herd and then your show team necessarily. Is there any advice you have for people that are looking at doing it that maybe don't have the luxury of having such a big herd to be able to balance what's required for an animal to hopefully, Well, I think your cow can look amazing in the show ring and still do it in the vet. But is there, from your opinion, a way that there's a good method to balance that?
Yeah, I think you answered my question now without. No, like
Sorry.
when I say that, I talk a little bit about Baldwin, and we have several other like Pazel, is an example. I'm just thinking of bulls right now, using these bulls that are balanced for both your BW and type, or here it's TPI and type, using these bulls that I would consider tweeners, right? They're not going to be profit robbers. When I mean profit robbers, they're eating feed and not being profitable. I think that profitability still stands as our number one trait we all need to be focusing on. But it's okay, how do we combine profitability with show ring success? And that 100%, when we kind of got into the genomic genetic sphere, that is what we set off to do. When one part of the business was going extreme type with no performance, and the performance side of the business was going extreme performance with no type, we looked at it and went, what about people like us that want both? And so that kind of moved us into a pocket within the breed of making these tweener cattle. Because like you said, there are a lot of people, and I grew up that way until we kind of built a facility for it, of not really being able to segregate your show cattle out, or being able to segregate, having the luxury of being able to take some show animals and just make them show animals, and market them and do different things. And a lot of people still need to milk their cows every day. That's why we went the direction we did. On our herd now, we're still doing some showing. We used to do quite a bit more when we could all be a little bit more hands on. Our family tries to be fairly hands on the dairy every day. I have my parents, my uncle. I have two cousins. One's a feed manager, one's a shop manager. My brother and I are here, so it's very hands on every day. Right now, the show cattle that we do own live at Budjon in Lamira. We currently have four animals there. We like working with them. They're about an hour away, so that way we can kind of focus on what we need to focus on here every day. And they'll send us, we'll make embryos over there. We'll bring them over here and implant them. And we're able to kind of segregate them from what we have every day. But we also like doing it so we're in touch with the show community. If we're going to make these kind of cattle, we need to know what's going on, and where the phenotype is. So we really try to be investing in the business.
I guess it's also showcasing that what you're doing is working when you see them in the ring as well, that you are getting that animal that sees the benefits of both. Yeah, there's not very many people, I think, in New Zealand, if any, that have the ability to keep their show cows very separate. You've got showcase boarding that can do that with Luke Gilbert, but everyone else, they've got to be able to put the milk in the vat, and then on the weekend they can put on their show clothes and strut around. But by Monday she's got to be back in the shed, and she's got to still be able to do her job.
And I really appreciate cows like that, that every day can do what they got to do. Here in the States now, it's not uncommon anymore to have a 95-point cow out in the free stalls, and when cows, are like that, I get really excited about them. I kind of want to go look at them like, ooh, a 95-point cow in a freestall, that's never gone to a show. I get excited. I want to go look at her. For me, that's exciting.
Oh, it is for me too. I like going into herds, and it's like no one else is going to see this cow. So I'm a classifier myself. So it's quite nice to you go and see these little farms and these little areas, and you're like, oh man, like that's a cow that I reckon she would, if you did put her in the show ring, she'd outbeat everyone. But it's so nice to just see her here doing her job, and she's chill, and she's just, and they'll be like, oh yeah, she's really great, and she does this and this and this, and this is what we like about her. And it's, yeah, talking to those little farmers is always a joy, just to be able to go out and actually see they're breeding beautiful animals, but they don't feel like they need to show them off. They're happy to just enjoy it for themselves, which is quite neat too.
And oftentimes they're bred by a more commercial bull, and it's just a
Mm.
really cool pedigree. You just go, wow, what a delight.
Yeah, and it's good that we're seeing a lot more of that now with the overseas bulls really taking off in New Zealand. You're seeing, so for the last few years, companies like Worldwide Sires have been doing a kind of TOP program within New Zealand and getting some of their daughters proven. And so I did some of those herds for Craig this year, and it was so nice to just see these commercial farmers that were just so passionate about their breeding and what they're doing. And the last herd that I did with Craig, I walked out and I said, I want to take half these cows home with me, thank you. Because they were just, the guy was so passionate about what he was doing, and he was talking about, how he got to where he was, and he was telling me that this was his B team, and I was like, God, if this is your B team, what does your A team look like? Yeah, he was just like, oh yeah, I reckon these ones could be better. There's ones out there that are even nicer, and I was like, okay. Craig and I looking at each other going like, I don't know if he knows what he's talking about, but can we see the rest of them, please? It's hard when you only get to see like a small selection of the 2-year-olds. Like he milks 200 and something 2-year-olds and only saw 50. So if that's his B team, then yeah, be very interested to see what his A team looks like.
And that's one of the things that I do like about Worldwide and our partners, and is that there is still progeny proof. The whole backbone of cattle breeding is built off of proven bulls, right? And how do you get these proven bulls, right? And you do it from milk testing, you do it from classification, you do it with, there's so much of this to make reliabilities where they need to be to have the confidence to use the genomic bulls underneath, that the whole system needs to run on proven bulls. So I'm hats off to Craig and his team for, and the classification team and the milk testing team and everyone combined to help prove these bulls out.
As you said, like we're trying to make sure that they stand out and stand up to what we're doing in New Zealand. So I think like Craig and his team and the EC Genetics team, the salmon team that have been doing this over the last couple of years, it's helping them emphasize that these bulls are able to work in New Zealand and do what, the LIC bulls and the CRV bulls have been doing for years, because we've never had that progeny test program and that progeny testability to go through and do it. Now we do. It's emphasizing even more. And as I said before, they're really matching up on that RAS list now. It's so great to see new ones coming through.
Yeah, that is really good to hear.
I did a little bit of research before we called up today. I said before, you're a judge and you judged in South Korea. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
What was that experience like? People don't really think South Korea dairy farming.
Yeah, it was actually a really lovely show, really lovely experience. Really, it's like we're talking, right? You're in New Zealand, I'm in the States right now, and we're both having a lot of passion about dairy cattle. It's kind of regardless of, language barriers. I think there's a lot of passionate people around the world about cattle, and yeah, I'm actually here in January. Going to be going over to IDW here, judging the Swiss show. Very excited about that. Yeah, I quite enjoy the judging side of the business as well. For me, it's yes, I try to breed them. Yes, I try to show them, but can I also evaluate them how I would like to be evaluated? And when I look at cattle and judge, a couple things for me that are still of the utmost important are overall correctness. Just do not cattle with holes. It just doesn't overly excite me. I'm just being honest. And the right amount of flesh on cattle too. You say you're a bred heifer that's far pregnant, you have to look a certain way. You got to go out and milk. So try to have that breeder look to the lineups when I make them. And yeah.
I've never been interested in being a judge, but seeing the different shows from around the world and listening to the judges give their reasons and things like that, it's always really interesting to see kind of the difference in what they're looking for and things like that. But it's just amazing. You watch different shows, or for you, like go to different parts of the world or whatever and do your judging. As you said, everyone's so passionate about it and everyone likes a different type of cow, but there's nothing wrong with the type of cow they want. It suits their system. And I think there's more understanding now around the difference of the type of cow that people look for than what there was a few years ago, when it used to just be that everyone wanted this big, tall, lanky thing. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, we want more capacity. So we're going to bring that height down. We're going to really bring out that chest and give some more depth in that rib and try and create more room and space. Then we're thinking about, legs a little bit more. And I think even if you're not into showing, seeing that side of it is a really great way for farmers to just see, okay, so these are the type of cows that are conformation wise put together well. And if I looked at my cow that way, okay, she actually doesn't look that different. Okay, she's not all prettied up, she's not clipped, she's not standing all perfectly, but I've got cows in my herd that match that. And I think that goes back to your finding an excellent 95 point cow in a freestall barn and still enjoying the cow, even if she's never been in a ring.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think how do we, yeah, how do we make the kind of cattle in the showing that are sustainable for many?
So I don't want to hold you up too much longer. I just have one question that I think it might be interesting for our, especially young breeder listeners, to get some advice. So, what advice would you give young breeders who want to build a herd like Siemers Holsteins or to become a well established herd like yourself?
Yeah. So my first comment to that is yes, it's possible. And you have to be a student of the game, right? The best chess players around the world are constantly studying the game. Don't be afraid to ask questions to other breeders. Almost all the breeders that I talk to seem very approachable. And I kind of started in on this when I was 12 or 13 years old. People were willing to help me. I think people want to see young breeders succeed in this industry. The other thing that I'd really recommend is don't be afraid to look around and see what's maybe missing in the genetic space. So for us, it was the combination of performance and type, right? That's kind of where we started in on, and then from there we've diversified from there. But don't be afraid to find something within the in the business and go, hey, this is where I'm going to make my claim and to do what I need to do within this space. But on top of that, though, you have to be very cognizant that that also works within your farm, and that when you have people coming to and you're going to market, that you're what you do every day, and actually you can prove what you're doing every day and be profitable about it. So everything kind of needs to go hand in hand. Yes, every day we need to put components down the driveway. So look around, see what's out there. The other thing I'd recommend, whatever direction you decide you want to go, you have to invest in the best, whether it's on the female side or the male side. You have to directionally breed for what you want, and doing so, yeah, you have to use the best. Don't be afraid to use bulls that are different, or once in a while, yes, you have to do some risky things. When I mean risky, I mean take some chances. For us, that was using Lambda. For us, that was using Luster Pete early in their careers. But again, that goes to this directional breeding strategy of they fit what we are trying to do: decrease stature. On some of our families that were getting too tall. I 110% believe, regardless of where you're at in the world, it is possible, right? Because when you look at how to stack bulls, right? It's okay. Generation one is 50%, two generations 75, three is 87 and a half, four is 90. It just keeps stacking so aggressively within 3 to 4 generations anywhere in this world, so long as you do the right stacks. Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Just takes time. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not, but that again goes to, you need to put the work into it and see the vision of where things are heading, right? Yeah, it's not always easy, but and like you said in your kind of deal too, right? Also look at herd size and what's possible. For some, that's just making females and maybe selling embryos out of females, or selling IVF sessions, or maybe selling a heifer, right? And some, it can be just female, and that's okay. Some, it's making a percentage of bulls, and some, it's maybe a different breed. You have to kind of look around and figure out what niche you want to settle in on, and commit to it.
I think that comes back to what you said earlier, where if you're only doing it with females, that's not an issue because everything starts from the female line,
That's
right?
right.
So you've got to have that strong female line to be able to get that strong bull line. If you decide that you just want to focus on females and that's what you want to sell, and you sell some amazing genetics from a female line, that could lead on to really decent bull lines in the future, or you could have a female line that then partners with an AB company or an AI company. You've got the highlighter cow, and you've got the ability now to kind of progress from that to see what she can do in the future. So it all starts with point A, which I think is what you've highlighted there, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. And don't be afraid to look around the world for inspiration as well. I think a lot of great ideas come from different parts of the world. Bring them to your locality and expand upon them. Recently, we invested in a heifer with some friends in the United Kingdom. A heifer that I think is different from what we have in the States and Canada. So like that's exciting. There's a couple other families that I'm keeping an eye on in a couple of different parts of the world. And it's not just localized, genetics or not. So don't be afraid to take inspiration from others.
And as you said, farmers like talking cows. So I'm sure that there's people out there that are more than happy to answer your questions.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much, Jordan, for joining me and talking about the world of farming, the differences between the USA and New Zealand, and also what it takes to get into bull breeding or just establishing herds like Siemers Holsteins. I think if, as you said, anyone can do it, it just takes time and dedication. And I think there's a lot of people throughout New Zealand that have got that dedication, and hopefully we'll see some more herds coming through and developing like that over here, which would be great to see. If you've got any questions about today's episode or ideas for future topics, you can reach out via our website, Facebook, or Instagram, as always. Thank you for listening. Thank you again, Jordan. This was a great conversation, and I could possibly sit here and talk to you for like another hour, but we both have places to be. So I will be back next month with a new guest and a new topic. Until then, happy farming. Bye.